Hello everyone, Eternal Life fans, it's Rowan here. At the cemetery, as I promised, I'm going to answer your questions that you posted on my last video. Let's start off with Devin Tracy's question, which is, why do I love you so much? Well, Devin, I don't know for sure, but I think you love me, and I'm risking now sounding a little bit egotistical and like I'm bragging, but I think you like me because I tell the truth about death when other people don't. Other people will lie to you about death, and I'm honest. I just say, look, these people, if they are actually dead, rotting in the ground, if they have ceased to exist, they're losers. Dead people are losers, and most people are not honest enough to tell that to you. And I think that you love me, Devin, because I'm very childlike. I've kept my childlike imagination, whereas other adults, they kind of lose their childlike nature. And I think you love me because I appreciate you, and that I love you, and therefore you're reciprocating my love to you. You know what I mean? And I think you love me because I'm just a very moral person, a very good, you can tell I'm a very good moral person, right? Like, whereas other people, you're like, oh, they're sketchy, right? I'm not sketchy. And I think that's a reason you love me. I'm trustable, dependable, just a good all-around person you'd want to have as a friend. So, and also there's my artistic work. I'm very artistic, like an artsy person like you, Devin. I feel like you probably relate to me in that way. We're very artsy, we're creative, and that comes to being a childlike person, right? And I think you have a lot of that childlike nature in you as well. I think you also appreciate that I'm judgmental. That has to do with being honest. You and me, Devin, we're very judgmental. We see things in the world, we hate certain things, we hate certain people, and we're honest enough to judge them publicly and shame people. And we're not so afraid of offending people that we shut our mouths. No, we speak the truth, we judge people, we embrace judgment. So I think that's another reason you love me. But anyways, there's probably 1,000 other reasons. I don't know, only you can say, Devin. I'm just guessing. But let's go on to the next question. Oscillating Fan says, what was your name before you started transitioning to being a female? What the heck? I'm not transitioning to being a female. I do not appreciate this comment here. It's very condescending, very rude. Let's see here. The next person is Emperor Palpatine. Says, do you believe there are people, most notably elites, who have access to life extension already? And following that, I believe that? So let's start with that. I do think, yeah, if I had to say, I do think there are people with access to life extension. There could be people literally 1,000 years old. Like, there might have been an elite group of people a long time ago that figured out how to cure aging, and they're keeping it secret. That's totally possible. And what I believe about it is kind of a moot point. Like my belief matters? No, what matters is what's possible. It's certainly possible that there are elites who already have access to life extension, and so we should take that into consideration. And following that, would you ever participate in the life extension methods that are coming to the surface, even if they are immoral? such as baby blood transfusion and bone marrow transplants. The cutting edge of life extension at this time seems to revolve around the life essence of young humans. Do you believe this is the future of life extension, or do you think the use of infants' essence is just a stepping stone to non-harming methods of life extension? Well, okay, I think that, I would not participate in immoral ways of extending my life. Okay, so like I would not kill people and drain their blood and drink the blood or something, even if I thought that was gonna extend my life, because I put morality above my own life extension. I'm not so selfish that I would do something horribly immoral, to live forever. But if there was a moral way of doing it, say for instance if we could clone people and made sure that these people had no souls, if we could clone them and never give them a consciousness and use their blood for something, that would be moral. If they didn't have a thought life, if they were basically brain dead clones that we were just using for their organs and their blood or something like that, I would do that. But I would not take someone who's already alive and they have a consciousness, and I would not steal their life for my own. So, do I believe that's the future of life extension? No, not really. I think we're gonna find out ways of taking, making our own blood, like synthetic blood, that we're designing in a laboratory. Something like that, as opposed to using real blood from people. I know what this person's talking about is that there's a lot of life extending qualities to young blood, and that's been in the news, and there's been questions about how are people going to get this young blood? Are elite people, are they doing immoral things to get this young blood and, intravenously put it into their own blood and live forever or something? I don't think that's going to be the future of life extension. There's probably going to be people, until we come up with a viable way to extend life, there's going to be people resorting to immoral ways of extending their own life. That's just going to be the case. There's always going to be people trying to do that in whatever way they can, but that's why we need to come up with a way of extending life that is perfectly moral, Ethan Anderson says, why should we look at life selfishly? Well, so I've talked about on my channel, I've talked about, having a self-interested perspective in life, and that understanding that our own life is the most important thing. And it just is. Like, for your own, we all want to live, right? And so the selfish thing is to do whatever you can to live forever, and that's not a bad thing. That's just survival. That's just like we all want to live, right? So why should you look at life selfishly? Because, and I think there's a bad kind of selfishness and a good kind of selfishness. All right, a bad kind of selfishness would be like what I was describing earlier, someone doing immoral things to extend their life, right? If like someone thought drinking young blood or was going to extend their life and they're going out killing people, that is immoral, and people should not be that selfish. A good kind of selfishness is just self-love. When I talk about selfishness, what I'm really talking about is self-love. When you love yourself, you're going to want to live forever. You're going to try to live forever. And you're going to take your health seriously and things like that. So I'm not talking about selfishness at the expense of other people. That's not what I'm talking about when I talk about selfishness. In fact, if you lived life selfishly at the expense of other people, you risk your own life. So that's not selfish at all. The truly selfish thing to do would be to be extremely moral, because that's going to increase your odds of living forever. I talk about the hypothetical God. If there's a hypothetical God, what if this hypothetical God would judge us upon how moral we live? If we're selfish, if we're doing bad things, if we're doing good things, all this kind of thing needs to be taken into consideration. So living a selfish life could be the worst possible thing you could do for your eternal life. For instance, how about being extremely rich? People who are extremely rich, they're living selfishly, but I've never promoted living a very indulgent, rich lifestyle, because that could put you in danger. What if the hypothetical God would judge you for being so selfish in that kind of way, where you're living this rich, lavish lifestyle, high on the hog, when they're starving children or something like that? If I was a God, I would judge people like that. I would judge the very rich. So it's logical to consider that if there was a God, maybe that's how we would be judged. So I do take that into consideration. Now the next thing is another question by Ethan. He says, what's wrong with death? Well, I explain that all the time on my channel. What's wrong with death, Ethan, is that you can't have any more fun if you're dead. You can't experience life. You lose everything you had. You lose the relationships you had, the bonds with other people, your achievements. It's all for nothing if you die. So it makes your life a big, pointless, meaningless joke. It's like, what was the point of ever being born if you end up rotting in the ground and you lose your consciousness? You can't think or reflect upon anything you ever did. You're born, you do some stuff, you die, it's all pointless. So that's the problem with death, is that it removes all the meaning of life. And that's what I was talking about earlier with the selfishness, self-interest. I don't like to use the word selfish. I like to use the word self-interest. We should have self-interest, and if we had self-interest, we would be interested in our own self-preservation, our own eternal life. So what's wrong with death is it destroys us. It destroys ourselves. This next guy says, his name is Khalid Osman, says, what do you think is so good about having eternal life in this world? Well, I can speak from my own perspective. It's good that if I could get to have fun forever and get to accomplish more things and fulfill all my dreams and, have relationships with people. That's fun. Life is fun. Death is no fun at all. Basically, what's good about having eternal life is I get to live forever, and other good people get to live forever, and life is a fun party. Okay. And it would be awfully sucky to get kicked out of the party and have no fun at all. I mean, that's like the fear of missing out. I fear missing out on life. If I were to be dead, that's missing out on everything for the rest of eternity. Couldn't experience the future. The fun, virtual reality we're gonna have in the future. Virtual reality, robots and future technology and all the movies and the creativity and the music, and the human race is awesome. We're doing awesome things. You wanna stick around? Okay. This person, DM Man Ka Master, says, what's your stance on abortion? My stance on abortion is that it should be legal, for places where it's voted, where the majority of people vote that it's legal, it should be legal. But if other people get together and they vote to have it illegal, that's fine too. I think every society should have it their own way. My personal stance is that I don't think abortion should be encouraged. I think that a lot of girls who get an abortion, they end up very depressed. I think people should be warned. The girls who are getting abortion, they should be warned about what that could do to them, their psychological health effects from that. Girls end up so depressed from it, some of them kill themselves. And I don't think the abortion clinics are warning girls enough about how dangerous it could be. There's also, is very, as far as, so I think it should be legal. Personally, I'd want to live in a society where it was legal, because I wouldn't want girls to resort to, you know, black market abortions and coat hangers and all this weird stuff girls could do if they didn't have it legal. So I'd want it to be an option. I would want it to be highly discouraged, and if people were going to do it, they should be warned about what it could do to them. So basically that's it. The next one says, oh, as far as like, is a baby a consciousness? Like, is a fetus a person? Personally, I don't think so, but what I think doesn't matter. It's like, we don't know. It could be a kind of consciousness. I mean, it's definitely better to save the life than to kill it. So I think girls should be encouraged to go through with their pregnancy and give those babies up for adoption to a family who wants the baby. Why kill all the babies as opposed to letting them grow and just having the babies, you know? Especially because, think about it. For the people that do think of the baby as a life, the fetus, right? How traumatizing must it be for all these people in the world who do consider a baby fetus to be a life? You know, they view this as being a murder. They view this as being a modern Holocaust. So we have to think of these people who are so traumatized by this modern Holocaust as they perceive it to be. You know, that wouldn't be fun for them, so why not make everyone happy and let these babies be born so these people don't have to be traumatized thinking they're living amongst the modern day Holocaust. Think about all those people gonna freak out. Every day they're thinking, you know, some people, they might be wondering literally in their heads, should I go kill abortion doctors? That's what some people are wondering. They have a moral dilemma. They're like, should I go kill an abortion doctor? There are people like that. So if we can just make this a non-issue by stop killing babies, there wouldn't be this huge problem, you know? That's the way I see it. But at the end of the day, it should be legal. But highly discouraged. You know, maybe there should even be a penalty. I could see that working out in some places. Some states might want there to be a penalty. Maybe, like, why not? Why not? Okay. Okay, this girl, Emily Robinson, says, should women who want to live forever not have children because it is hard on the body? That's a good question. Okay. Yes, having a pregnancy can be hard on the body. But I've also heard that having a pregnancy can be good for people's health. So I'm conflicted about it. I think that it's very dangerous. Some girls die in pregnancy. You know, but some girls really want to have a child, and that could be good for their mental health to have that child and feel fulfilled in that kind of way. So that could be the best for their health in terms of their own psychological health. So I think it depends on the girl and how badly they feel that they need to have a baby. If there's a girl that really feels that they need to have a baby for their health and to feel fulfilled in life, that could be the best thing. If there's another girl who's maybe more mentally strong and doesn't need the kind of crutch of having a baby and this sort of thing, that could be the best thing for that girl. So it depends on the girl. Ultimately, it is a risk. If I was a girl, I don't think I'd have a baby because I'd be like worried of dying in pregnancy or something. Literally, I don't think I would have a baby. It's scary. I mean, that's a huge thing your body's going through, and at the last minute, the doctors might rush in and say, hey, we need to have a C-section. And then you have a scar on your freaking belly, and like, there's just all this unknown risks. And the C-section is very dangerous. Okay, there's a big risk of death, and they'll tell you that. And the doctors will tell you, yeah, you could die. So it happens. People still die. Pregnancy is dangerous, okay? The next question is by Eternal Man. He says, what would you do if someone saved your life? I would thank them, give them a big hug, and I would, I'd make a video tribute to them. You know, I'd be very, very grateful. Enormously gratefully, eternally grateful to this person. And this is why, you know, this idea of how grateful we should be to people who were to save our lives, this is what should get us thinking along the lines of how, let's try to save people's lives. Let's help people. Let's save them from death, because if you could save someone from death, you've given them the greatest gift ever. If you can help someone live forever, you've done a great thing. Even if you can help one person live forever. You know, think of Schindler. Schindler saved all these people, and he still felt like he did not do enough. You know, he saved over 1,000 Jews, and he's like, I didn't do enough. I did not do enough. I did not save enough people. That is the mentality that we should have. That the more people we could save, the better, and we should always feel like we just didn't save enough people. We should go to the cemetery and look at how many dead people there are and just be like, how many of these people could have we helped? How many of these people, if we had just tried harder, if we had reached out more, we could have taught them about health, different things they could have done to avoid their diseases or however they died, you know? We should be having a PSA every day about how to avoid death, you know? Tell people. Warn people of death. Okay. The next question is by Matthew Sims. This person says, what should be done to protect the Earth environment? Well, I'm a little conflicted about this because I don't want too much government interference amongst private corporations. I'm generally like a capitalist, and I want companies to have freedom and like less regulations and stuff. At the same time, a lot of these companies are huge polluters. They're doing awful things to the environment. You know, pig farmers are just dumping their pig crap into the rivers, and it's just like, what is going on? So we need some kind of environmentalist watchdog group. It'd be preferable if there's more private watchdog groups that were privately funded, and like, you know, people were donating to these watchdog groups as opposed to the government doing it all. Because the more power we give the government, the more, you know, the government is incompetent. And if the government has too much power to regulate things, it's like, that's a scary thought too. So I think we need to have green technologies and freaking, you know, stop using all this polluting stuff, fossil fuels, and you know, the typical stuff, you know, the typical stuff that people say that we need to do to save the environment. I'm the same way. I don't have a special idea about this. So. Okay. But it is important to save the environment because, especially if we're going to live forever, think about it. This is the Earth we're going to have to be on forever. So, kind of important, especially for people who want to live forever, to have a clean air, clean water, and the whole Earth's not going to be a giant dump heap. Okay, so kind of basic. The next thing is oh, I missed a question. Okay. Propagandist Hacker says, oops, no cure for aging or cancer or heart disease yet, not gonna happen anytime soon. Where will your cryonics money come from? So this person is saying that, you know, aging is not gonna come around in time for me or something. Look, they don't know the future. They don't know my fate. And good luck with your cryonics. I don't think that's gonna work. I don't think it's possible. It's possible that cryonics would work. I just don't see it happening. I don't see the brain being able to be repaired. Cryonics would really damage your brain, breaks apart the neurons, and there's lots of physical damage to your brain. Good luck repairing that. and bringing your consciousness back to life, physically reconstructing your brain or whatever, or uploading your consciousness from your damaged brain into some robot avatar. Good luck with that. It's not gonna happen, people, but hey, it's possible. Okay. The message is, don't die. Don't rely on some hypothetical cryonics to save you. In the same way, we should not rely on some hypothetical God to save us. You live forever physically, because this is the life we know we have. We're conscious now. We got to keep our own consciousness now and not expect that it's going to be somehow resurrected or whatever. Okay. The next question is, do you think we'll make it, or is oblivion inevitable? And that was by Louis Montilla. Sorry if I didn't pronounce that right. Okay. Do you think we'll make it? I think I'll make it. I'm optimistic about whether I'm going to live forever. I think I'm going to live forever. Will you make it? I don't know. That's up to you. So I can't generalize and say will. Some people are going to make it, some are not. I think few people, relatively speaking, are going to make it. People are alive right now. Only few of us are going to live forever. Most people are going to die. They're not trying hard enough to extend their life. They're not trying hard enough to be healthy, to avoid all the dangers in this world. Very dangerous world. Look around. The cemetery should remind you of how dangerous the world is. People dying, dropping like flies. Okay, so yeah, I think definitely oblivion is not inevitable, in my opinion. And if you think it is inevitable, you're probably going to die. Because where's your motivation going to come from? If you're going to be a fatalist and say that oblivion is inevitable, oblivion might be your own fate, if that's your attitude. So I think having a more optimistic attitude and being open to the possibility of living forever, that's step one. You have to have that open mind that you could live forever. You do have a real chance. Or else, how are you going to be motivated? So the next question is hope. It's from Hope and Humanity. If all it took to live forever was to... I'm not even going to read this comment. It's gross. Little Boy Bean Dip says, how long would you have to be with a girl before having confidence that she's your eternal love and marrying her? So how long would I have to be with a girl? It would take, I don't know. I think it would depend on the girl and our conversations and stuff. It would take a long time. I think probably at least it's just an estimation, like 4 years or something. I'd probably have to really know this person, like, deeply, intimately. I'd have to know their mind. I'd have to vet them, see that they're a moral person, that they're trustable, that they're not gonna... It's really morality is the basic thing. There's a lot of other things with vetting people for your relationship, but it would take a while because I wouldn't want to make a mistake and then get in a relationship and this person leaves me or something, and yuck, that's awful. You don't want that. So be strict with your vetting and do take the time to, interrogate this person. They're going to be your eternal love. You're going to be with them forever. That's the ideal. So you have to be sure. Don't rush into something that's going to fail. Don't be another statistic, another divorce, another failed relationship that didn't work. No. Take the time to make sure you found the right person. So yeah, my estimation is 4 years. I don't know though, depending on the person, depending on our conversations, it could be less, it could be more. I might have to know someone for 10 years, 20 years. I don't know. I really haven't. It's too much variables to say. Emily Robinson says, oh, I already answered that question. Okay. All right, next question is by Tony Otis. They say, hey, Rowan, what do you think about sex bots? I think sex bots would save lives. Sex bots would save lives because there are people who lashed out, like Elliot Rodger. These psychopaths we need sex bots for these people. We need sex bots for people to kind of pacify them. You know, I think that people having unfulfilled sexual desires like that, if they cannot release those desires, it could manifest itself in like mass shootings, like we saw with Elliot Rodger, killed 6 people or something. We could see that on a larger scale. The next mass shooter could literally be a frustrated virgin like the Elliot Rodgers, and he's like couldn't get a girlfriend or something, so he goes out and kills a bunch of people. We don't want that. So if we just had sex bots for these people, you know, these dysfunctional people who cannot socialize, they can't get a girlfriend or something, absolutely, sex bots would save lives. Do I recommend sex bots personally? It's safer than going out, and you can't get STDs from a sex bot unless you're sharing your sex bot with someone else or something, but it's safer than going out and literally having sex with real people and getting yourself AIDS and STDs, and you know, people go to prostitutes. Is a sex bot preferable to a prostitute? Yeah. Heck yeah, it's better than a prostitute. Yuck. So, sex bots would save lives in multiple ways. Sex bots would save people from literally dying of AIDS. How many people die from AIDS because they were so sexually frustrated they go and saw a prostitute and then they freaking get AIDS and die? They could have been saved. Sex bots, let me tell this, it's definitely a crutch. It's not an ideal thing. It's not a, you know, the ideal is finding a real person, find your eternal love that's a real person, not a sex bot. If your eternal love was a sex bot, you know, that's pretty pathetic and that's sad. That's not a good thing. So people should, hey, but if you need to have a sex bot until you can find your eternal love, what if it takes you 1,000 years to find your true eternal love? So having a sex bot in the meantime, it might be the solution for some people who couldn't wait 1,000 years before being intimate with people. So a sex bot can pacify them. It can be their crutch until they do find their eternal love. So, you know, I think it's a good thing. We need to develop the sex bot technology. Because it really would do a lot of good. Way more good than harm. The next question is by Carter Cole, and he says, should virgins always have sex with virgins? Is there ever a case where it would be advantageous to have a more experienced partner? I think ideally virgins should have sex with another virgin, and that should be their eternal love. Like, you know, 2 virgins get together and stay with each other forever. That is the ideal. Is there exceptions? Yeah, I can see an exception. Like, for instance, what about all the people in the world whose spouse died? Literally died, and now they're a widow or widower. You know, if I was to find my eternal love, if they were a widower, like, I could see myself making an exception for a widow, right? Like, if their husband died or something, that person shouldn't be alone forever. And they don't necessarily deserve, just because their husband died, they don't necessarily deserve to expose themselves to new risks of STDs with someone who's not a virgin. So it's like, that just sucks that people die. You know, husbands are dying, wives are dying, and that freaking sucks. So I could see myself making an exception for that. So technically they would be a more experienced partner, and that is one exception, I think. So yeah. What's another exception I could think of? I mean, honestly, it's up to the person. So, like, I would encourage other virgins, whether you're a guy or a girl, to save your virginity for that one eternal love. And they should be a virgin, hopefully. Now, if they're not a virgin and you want to forgive them and try to let it go and make an exception for that person, even if they've lost their virginity, that's cool if that's what you want to do. But it's a risk to yourself. So, is this person worth it? That's what you have to be asking yourself. Is this person worth, risking getting an STD from or something, or I don't know. Okay, now the other part of this question is, would it ever be advantageous to have a more experienced partner? No. I don't see how that could be advantageous to you, to be with someone who's more experienced with sex and stuff and they've had a lot of I don't see how that's advantageous in any scenario. No. That's disadvantageous to you, because you're more likely to get an STD from that kind of person. So, Alex Gibson says, how do you feel about resurrection of the dead? I'm in favor of it. I'm in favor of it. Let's try to figure out how to resurrect the dead. Is it possible? I don't think so. I could be wrong, but we hear stories about Jesus. That's the most historical story about being resurrected from the dead. That would be cool. Let's get that. Let's work on that. But what if there is a resurrection of the dead? All right, so resurrection of the dead. As I was saying, it's possible. We hear stories in history of various religious figures that have resurrected themselves or something. I think that's all fabricated, and I don't think it's true. If there was a resurrection of the dead, though, what if our bodies could be resurrected? If that were possible, then you would want to not destroy your physical body. Like, don't get cremated. Here's a suggestion. If you die, don't have your body get cremated. Because if there was some kind of resurrection, I think a person who's cremated is going to be a lot less likely to be resurrected than someone who wasn't cremated. Hey, how about putting your body in a tomb and waiting 3 days? See what happens. I don't know. These things are better than destroying your body. Let the body do what it does, and maybe some miracle will happen and you'll be resurrected. I'd want to give my body a chance to be resurrected as opposed to just throwing my body in the freaking ground and covering it with dirt. Let's give my body a chance to be resurrected. As far as like a technology that could resurrect us, I don't see that happening. Like, people think cryonics, people think they're going to be resurrected. I explained that. I think that's crap. I don't think they're going to be resurrected. So, how did you find out living forever is possible? It's not something I found out. It's just something I thought about. When you think about the idea of living forever, if you're smart and you're open-minded, you think, this could be possible. I'll pursue this. Because what else do you have? You're either going to pursue living forever, or you're not going to pursue living forever. And you're going to die. So, of course, you would want to hold out hope that living forever is possible. So it's not something you find out. It's something you think about. And anyone can think about living forever and realize, because the future is unknown, because anything is possible, therefore living forever is possible. That's kind of the path that my mind took to living forever, to thinking about it. The next question is, do you think being a Christian in the past has influenced your pursuit of eternal life? Yes, I do think being a Christian influenced my pursuit of eternal life, because it was growing up Christian where in Christianity this eternal life is the central focus of the religion. It's all about How do you get your eternal life? You know, that's Christianity for you. It's all, and that's Jesus always talking about the kingdom of heaven and seek first the kingdom of heaven, and it's all about how to get saved, you know, how to get into heaven. So being a Christian got me preoccupied with this idea of eternity and living forever. And when I became an atheist, it was awful. I mean, it was so sad to think that there is no heaven, and so you have to have a replacement for everything. Like, you have to try to live forever physically. You invest into this life because this life is all I have in my perspective. So it has also influenced, being raised a Christian also influenced my being a Christian has also influenced my pursuit of eternal life, in that being raised a Christian, I had this idea of fear of God. And I still keep that fear of God. Even though I don't believe in God, and that's probably strange to people, but you don't have to believe in God in order to fear the possibility of a God. And so that's what I do now. To prepare for the scenario that there might be a God, I live as though there's a God, if that makes sense. So I just live as though there's a God that could be watching me and judging everything I do. So in that way, being a Christian certainly influenced my current strategy to live forever. Because I don't pretend to know for sure that there is no God. So there might be, and I tell people that if you're really being smart and you're trying to live forever, you should prepare for the possibility of a God. And it's a hypothetical God. If there's a God, no one would know, no one would know how the God is going to judge people. Anything like that. So anything's possible. Therefore, prepare for a very strict God that requires moral perfection. You might need to be as good as Schindler. Some people think, oh, I'm already good. I don't need to fear a hypothetical God to be good. But how do you know you're good enough? How do you know you wouldn't be better if you did consider a possible judgment, right? If you were thinking maybe there's a God that's going to judge me and I might need to be morally perfect, then you might be more motivated to go out there and help people. Because that takes a lot of motivation to live, to go out there just like freaking save lives and be like Schindler. Are you doing that? Maybe you're moral in that you're not going out there and killing people, but that's like, if there was a God, that could be the bare minimum requirement, that you're basically moral and, you're not hurting people. That might not be enough to get you saved. In order to get saved, you might actually need to go out there and help people and be like Schindler, be better than Schindler. Maybe even Schindler wasn't good enough. Do I think that there's a God that's going to save people and is judging us? No. Like I said, I'm an atheist, but it's the possibility of it that matters. My belief as to whether there's a God, whether there's not a God, it doesn't matter. What I believe could be wrong, so I don't care about what I believe. What matters is what's possible. So I try to prepare for a God just in case, and that's the fear of the hypothetical God that I talk about. It's a hypothetical thing. It's wise, it's smart, it's intelligent. So, the next question is, what is your biggest accomplishment? My biggest accomplishment is probably just being, probably starting the Eternal Life fan club, I guess. Yeah, just probably just spreading the news of living forever and that it's possible, and that's probably my biggest accomplishment if I could think. Yeah. That's it. Thank you, and may you live forever.
Someone to fly, ain't that crazy? In a heaven of people, only someone to fly, ain't that crazy? Miracles will happen.